put that on the back burner along with the countless other things that I hope to get to one day. But then, a few months later, I heard that a new version of this printer was coming out. One that was just as easy to set up and use as the one I had.
You turn off the light back here, kid, because you're still awake, it sounds
with
like.
a wider range of plastics, as well as some other features to make it even better. So, immediately, the first thing I reached out to reality and
Who are you talking to?
No one.
You were just talking to someone. You are. Before I stopped.
Okay, so the setup was actually even easier than the Ender 3V2. With the S1, a majority of the printer came pre-assembled in the box, so there were less steps that you had to do yourself. The instructions that
So don't even try that, kid. You were just having a conversation with sitting on your bed talking to someone.
I'd say that if I wasn't filming, it probably would have taken more than 15 minutes to get the whole thing set up. Once it was all set up, the next step was to level the bed. To do this, all I had to do was power on the printer and select the auto leveling function. This was another thing that had to be done manually on the Ender 3V2, and it's something a lot of beginners struggle with, so the auto leveling is a huge plus. After that though, the one thing I did have to adjust manually was the nozzle's distance from the print bed. And that is done by adjusting the setting called Z offset. Now, to properly adjust the nozzle distance on my previous printer, pretty much every YouTube video I watched said that to get the best results, you want the nozzle to be the distance of one piece of paper away from the print bed. Now, every time I did that, I ended up getting amazing results. However, I tried this tip on the Ender 3S1, and I'm not sure why, but the same tip does not seem to apply. After the paper trick, apparently it was still too close, causing the filament to adhere rather strongly and leaving a permanent mark. And now everybody knows that I was trying to print free Bitcoins. Anyways, I ended up lifting the nozzle a little bit more than I normally would, and I found that that worked a lot better. Alright, now let's look at some of the features that make this printer unique. Starting with the biggest upgrade, the Sprite Direct Dual Gear Extruder, which is this contraption here. Based on what I can see with my very amateur perspective, instead of the motor that is used to control the flow of the plastic,
Because I think a lot of it's going to just depend on the brand of printer you buy.
And into the extruder,
So what all it does and what all you have to do on your own.
Built into this one extruder head. This makes it easier to load and remove filament, gives the filament a shorter distance to travel, faster retraction speeds, and for me, the most important part is that this is what
It's softer and some will take both, and it just depends on what you want to make it out of.
I honestly don't know why that is, but apparently this is where the magic happens. The Ender 3S1 also has CR Touch automatic bed leveling, which I showed you earlier. It has dual Z-axis motors and screws for more vertical precision when printing. And it has this removable magnetic sheet, which seems to have better adhesion than the glass bed on the other printer. It makes it easier to remove your prints since you can bend it. At the top here, there's also a filament runout sensor that will stop your print if you run out of plastic, and should also allow you to continue the print once you have more. The LCD screen is almost identical on both printers, but I do like that the S1 comes with a full-sized SD card slot instead of micro SD. Now, to print an item, it's also surprisingly easy. Let me show you. The first step is to find an item that you want to print. A popular website for this is thingiverse.com. I found this GoPro mount for my drone, which seems like something I could use, so I downloaded that. Step 2 is downloading a piece of software called a slicer. Now, what a slicer does is it takes your 3D model and converts it into instructions that your printer can understand. One thing that I didn't realize is that in 3D printing, most of the adjustments that you make to your
We made it to buy a better laptop to hold apps and shit, but
printer itself. Now,
but I kind of wanted to buy a better laptop anyways.
Pregnancy not in the cards right now? If an IUD for birth control that also treats heavy periods...
Because I kind of wanted to buy fucking... I kind of wanted to get a more of a gaming laptop anyways, because that one's fine if me and Chris want to do set up like a podcast or something and try it.
After placing
But if I want to do online gaming, be on my phone or this or that, a gaming laptop's just going to be so much better for that.
There's one with enough memory to where, like when we start bleeding, when you put down one thing, what mine is work
I ain't going to need memory for that. I just need paper. Because I'm planning on starting a binder for everything anyways and having each kind of fucking...
But I'd also like to have it on the computer too. So I could double back that.
Reality, the company that makes the Ender.
Most of them I can buy the external memory shit like Chris asked for his fucking PS4 anyways. And plug it in and save the shit there if need be.
Which material you'll be playing with, you can choose preset or change some settings if you want. Then you just click slice and you can save it directly to an SD card. Then you put that SD card in the printer and the printer will do the rest of the work for you. Now, for my first attempt, I tried printing the exact same object with the exact same settings that I tried on my Ender 3 V2. This may or may not be very clear on camera, but the new print clearly has fewer imperfections than the previous one. I decided that next, I should test it on a bigger item that might actually be useful to me, which was when I downloaded the GoPro mount. Now, on my first attempt, I noticed that it was printing the mount, but with a lot of stringing and imperfections, so I stopped the printing halfway and tried to make some adjustments. I tried again, and the result was similar, but I would say a little bit better. Then, after another half hour of watching a few more videos and applying a few more tips, on literally my third attempt, I was able to get a result that I was happy with. Straight off the printer, it looked like this, with some minor imperfections and some wispy stringing on the inside. But after taking a minute to remove it all, it looked like this. Honestly, not including the time that it took the printer to do its job, I would say that I spent maybe an hour total fine-tuning the setting. Alright, so is this printer everything that I hoped for? Well, I learned that although 3D printing technology has become very accessible, it's not a completely hands-off experience. It will require you to watch a few tutorials at the start to understand the basics, but that being said, although it would take some time to master, the learning curve really isn't that high to get started. Funny enough, after trying this, I actually feel kind of motivated to learn some 3D modeling. So that might be something I try soon. As for the two printers, the one that you decide to get will probably depend on your budget. The Ender 3 V2 is currently $262, while the S1 is $429. Almost $170 difference. Now, I would guess that with a bit more experience, you could probably get great TPU prints on both printers, but the S1 definitely makes it easier for you, especially if you're a noob like me. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
You get into the security business without a love of true crime coursing through your veins. When you're on your feet, you don't have time to step back and watch your favorite down. So for all you armchair detectives, there's fire.
Yeah, it's differentiated. It pretty much just depends all on which printer you buy. To how much you have to do and you download it and send it that way.
But if I catch you stealing anything else, you better be ready to outrun my trusty steam.
I'm wondering how you get to it.
Yeah, you download it and save it to a memory card and all that. Which is kind of what I was figuring.
To 3D printing or thinking about getting into it, this is the ultimate beginner's guide. The 3D printing 101 course.
That's why I was encouraging it, Chris. That's what no one got.
From unboxing,
Because I figured it, since that was a 3D printer, that would give me a reason that I needed a better computer anyways.
FDM printing versus resin 3D printing. What are the parts of an FDM 3D printer? 3D models and slicing, filament selection, the first layer.
Eventually I'm going to work on getting both. Just to see what the difference is. Between the filament one and a resin one. Only because I kind of want to get into resin anyways. Into like resin molding and shit like that.
FDM versus resin 3D printing. Fused deposition modeling or FDM 3D printing is probably what you see the most of. The concept of melting a spool of filament layer by layer to build an object on the printer. It's all in the name. You're fusing the filament together by depositing it onto the bed or onto other layers of itself to create the model. The filament that you're melting comes in a spool most of the time, kind of like a spool of cable or.
I was thinking about that for candy. That's why I was thinking candle molds, kind of. Too. But that's only because if I have candle mold to make myself the candle, I can always take a picture of that candle as long as I have the mold and wax and shit and everything to make it. And put it out there and make them pretty much as they're fucking ordered. As they're ordered. As someone wants one.
Now there are many differences between these two types of printing, but here's some highlights. The first, FDM printing typically prints at a lower resolution.
Yeah, and do that as the order too. Yeah, I can do that shit that way too.
FDM printing also accounts.
That's my point. I can do different shit that way, because I can do candles that way too. So.
Resin printers also use a toxic resin, so they require some cleanup after printing. It's recommended that you use gloves and a respirator to be safe when handling uncured prints. On that note, resin prints need to be washed.
I can legitimately try to make me a little Facebook business with making shit. Yeah.
Resin printers also can't currently print multiple specific colors in one print the same way an FDM printer.
Your resin printer is like multiple fucking steps.
And one print can be done pretty easily on an FDM printer, but doing so on a resin printer is a major challenge and in some cases just not possible. Let's talk about getting to know your FDM 3D printer. Now, for the purposes of this video, we're going to be focusing on the very popular FDM style 3D printers and not so much on resin printers, so let's see what we're working with here. This is the longer LK4X, which is a pretty great example of all the parts on a modern 3D printer. In general, we have the bed, which is where all of the parts get printed on. The hot end, which is the combination of parts that heat up the filament and then extrude it through the nozzle. The extruder, which is sometimes part of the hot end, like on this printer, and sometimes sits somewhere else and then pushes the filament through a tube, and that's called an Odin tube, and more on that when we cover filaments. Now the gantry is this part of the printer that supports the X and Y movement typically. In this style of printer, it's actually this whole top part that makes it possible for the hot end to move side to side and go up and down. The gantry often refers to the entire raised portion that you see here, and this will vary from printer to printer. The power supply is typically located on the back or bottom of the printer, and often we switch between 110 and 220 volt electricity. The logic board is also typically in the back or bottom of the printer, and it's pretty much always concealed. Stepper motors are used to move the belts for the X, Y, and Z axes, so the bed or hot end can be wherever it needs to be. Hi, my name is Jason Williams,
I love you too.
CES 2024, which is more immersive than ever. It's a virtual scavenger hunt that allows you to be able to go head to head with another in virtual reality and live action presence. This highly customizable solution provides benefits for customer and employee engagement as well as training. And now, you can head to head for the fastest time within our scavenger hunt. Can you top our leaderboard? Please put yourself at the Canon booth at CES 2024.
Engineered to go behind the blur. Yes, that's what you call home. 2. Movement that inspires.
There are also sensors located to figure out when it's at the 0 point or the max point. Is the user interface. Some of these are touch screens, and some use a knob and a click setup instead. You'll also have a filament spool holder like this one up top here, and then an SD card holder, and that allows you to transfer your models to the printer, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Now, 3D models and slicing. Let's dive into 3D models. All 3D prints start out with a 3D model. That model can be created in any number of software platforms like 360, Blender, Tinkercad, Google SketchUp, AutoCAD, and more. The output from this model is what's
No.
called a stereolithography file, or STL. That's a file that's
Whatever.
understand it, ingests that, and knows what to do with it.
God, I'm not that fucking mean.
These STL files can be found all over the web. We have a great video that covers the best places to find them right up here. So you might want to take a look at that one that Eric put together. One of our hosts in the channel. In short, there are quite a few sites for finding free STL, such as things.com, printables.com, myminifactory.com, thingiverse.com, and a bunch of others. You can also purchase high-quality STL files on sites such as Etsy, CD Trader, Holtz 3D, and many more. There are sites that specialize in cosplay files, for example, and others that specialize
That's why I wanted.
So anything you want to print, you can pretty much find that.
No. Me and Chris technically want it for cosplay and the minifigures for YouTube.
Is a program that's located on your computer typically, or even on the web, that takes those STL files we talked about and figures out how to apply whatever settings you choose as far as how to print it, and then converts those.
Because you can print them off in white and then paint them and do different fucking shit with them and shit.
As the conversion layer, it's like a translator between the 3D.
And cosplay, that's an easy, cheap way to get cosplay accessories without having to go buy the shit.
Now, the slicing software will either come with your specific printer settings already installed, or you'll have to add the printer yourself and input the printer specifications. Once you get that software, then you can tell the software how you want to print the model, how strong it should be, how smooth or rough it should be, what filaments you're using, and what temperatures they need, and more. A lot of this will come kind of prepackaged for you, but you have the option to control as much of this or as little.
Some of them don't cost that much, so you can buy them with gift cards. I can buy.
It's called a C code file in most cases. But sometimes it's actually a C or CX, or usually derivations of G code. There's also what's called a 3MS file. Now, the G code
I know, I was just saying if we did.
First instructions that tell your printer what temperatures to use, where to move the print, and where to or to retract it back.
Should be cheap enough.
It's everything the printer needs to.
And sometimes, I was about to say, sometimes you can get more than one color for under $10 to $15. Sometimes you get 3 or 4 spools for that.
For example,
that just depends on what size spool you're buying and this and that.
Cura is regularly updating more pretty cool features, and it can also be used on most 3D printers nowadays. Many of the 3D printers out there, including this one, are already loaded into the software. So for this one, all I have to do is go into Printers, Add Printer, Non-Opening Printer, Non-Network Printer, and then find the printer based on the manufacturer and model from there. If you don't see the printer you own, or the specs aren't quite right, you can also add a custom. So you can just go to Custom FFF printer, and enter in your parameters. However, as you can see, Cura has done a great job at including literally hundreds of printers in their software to make it as easy as possible to get up and running. Now, other slicer softwares include Slicer, Idea Maker, Matter Control, Slicer, and all of those are free, by the way. And you can also try some paid programs like Simplify 3D, which is paid, but it's also one of the more comprehensive ones. Now, most of these slicers are similar in terms of layout and setup, and they usually have the same general functions. Many printers, especially nowadays, are using proprietary slicing software, and that's tuned to the specific printer that you buy. Bamboo Lab, for example, uses Bamboo Studio, and there are only 3 printers to choose from.
I might get let out of my bed and shit more, girl.
So you download Bamboo Studio.
It's time to start buying props and shit now.
And all the settings are there.
I figured out the printer, so now it's time to set you guys up for photo shoots. Yeah, I can cut off like that one. I can cut off the extra frame that bitch and hang it up on our wall for YouTube background. And if I get too many, I can just rotate it fucking out. That picture of Hal that I printed off today, technically, if I want to, I can put that in the picture frame, even though she's on a regular piece of paper, and hang it up on my wall for a YouTube background. That's actually what I was thinking about doing with it, instead of just taping it or fucking pinning it up to our wall.
Support material can be applied when you have a part of your model that would otherwise have to be printed in. Have a look at the hands on
Just like if I start getting like different fake plants or fake pumpkins and shit and locking up the cats and setting up a scene on the fucking table and setting them on top of the little props.
They're removable and they're temporary. Their structure's designed
For photo shoots, I can print off them photos and add them back there for YouTube background.
Bridging is kind of similar, but it occurs when you just need to span a short distance that has support on either side, like an actual bridge. Most printers use the cooling fan to blow air on the film as it comes out to harden it, allowing for a decent amount of bridging, sometimes even several inches worth, but usually limited to about an inch or about 2.5 centimeters. Bridging occurs much less frequently in 3D models than the need for supports, however. You're going to probably find lots of times when you just need to add.
That's kind of my point. That's why I kind of want to figure it out. Because if I get good enough, I can always buy cheap ass frames and sell snake pictures and see if anyone wants them.
It's common, however, to print at 15% infill, for example, which is usually the default on most slicers. The thicker your outside walls are, the less likely you are to need a high percentage of infill. I've printed many pieces that only have 5 to 8% infill, and they work just fine. Other times, like when I printed...
Yeah, you never know.
Because I wanted it to be resistant to any sort of cloning or anything like that. And honestly, even 50% may have been overkill for this type of structure. The most common setting you'll need to adjust is layer height. This is equivalent in many ways to resolution of an image for a 2D printer. Think of a pixelated image that you find online, maybe like this one. You can get the gist of it, but it doesn't actually look very good. That's like printing with a higher layer height, a larger number there. There are less layers to make up the shape, and layers are a bit like pixels. If you then see a much higher resolution version of it, it looks smoother and crisper, kind of like using a lower layer height for printers. Most FDM 3D printers come with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, which refers to the size of the hole that the filament is extruded. Ideally, your layer height goes more than 80%.
I don't know. The resin may cost more, so I'm not for sure. Because I don't know, because you gotta get the UV light and everything else for the resin print, so I don't know actually.
While resin printers can reach layer heights as low as 0.01, with 0.05 being a common setting. If you're looking for ways to make your 3D print look less 3D printed, Wyatt,
I'm guessing.
did an awesome job of creating a video showing exactly how you can do that. You can check out right up here. Now, going through the different slicer settings could be an entire video series because there are literally hundreds of options, but be sure to check whether or not you're using supports, your infill percentage, and your layer height at minimum. You also want to verify that you have the right temperatures for both the bed and the hot end based on the type of filament that you're using, which is what we'll be getting into now. Once you've sliced the file, it will output a G-code file like we talked about before. That file can then be transferred from your computer to the printer itself. The most common methods are SD card, micro SD card.
Because we're not that lucky and they feel that fucking Clear Lake's close enough.
Okay, filament. So choosing which
I would too. I think we need one on Clear Lake, but on that side of Clear Lake by Walgreens, but.
Let's take a look at some of the most common types of filaments. The first and most common is PLA or polyacrylic acid. I'm pretty sure it's the most commonly used filament type that's on the market today. So a 1 kilogram spool, and that's how they're sold today, costs between $15 to $30. And virtually every 3D printer out there today is capable of printing PLA. There are also variations of this filament like PLA Plus that adds strength and ductility to the material. PETG, or polyethylene terephthalate glycol, so if I pronounced that right, is another really common filament because it's relatively easy to print, but not quite as easy as PLA. That said, it tends to be quite a bit stronger and more resilient than PLA. It's usually a little bit more expensive, and it also offers a great option in terms of semi-transparency and different types of materials you can use with it. Now, there are many people who swear by PETG as the go-to for all prints. In fact, I was actually on a call not that long ago with the most adorable young man, this 8-year-old boy from the UK named Robin. One of the first things he said when he met me was, "Why don't you use PETG for all your prints? Stop using PLA." So there are those who are very adamant about it. ABS is another one that's actually made from ages. You probably have lots of items in your house that are made from ABS, like Lego bricks, for example. It's tough, it's durable, it's pretty easily priced, but it is a bit more difficult to print because it typically requires a full enclosure around your printer and some higher temperatures as well. When it comes to functional prints for printed models that are actually going to be used to provide a physical purpose, as opposed to something that's just kind of cool or decorative, some of the filaments we just mentioned can be very useful, but there are many more, including nylon, carbon fiber, glass fiber, and polycarbonate, just to name a few. You can also find filaments that have multiple colors in them, flexible filaments like GPU or Ingeflex. Other favorite filaments, glow-in-the-dark filaments.
Pretty much just going to be buying one and figuring out what you like, and then figuring out if what you like actually works for what you want to fucking print or not. The one I was looking at is $400 and some, but
Wood fiber filaments, dichromatic.
I haven't looked that much into it either. But the main one I was looking at that I liked was $400 and some.
In fact, we're actually seeing new types of filaments coming out on a regular basis at this point. That's pretty exciting to see. And the one I'm keeping an eye on is metal filaments and how we can actually get to where we make metal at home instead of spending like tens of thousands of dollars to do that. I usually tell most people that are getting started, try some PLA or PLA Plus. They're both super easy to work with, and they suit many different purposes. Experiment with PVC as well, and then maybe dip your toe into the pool of the many other filaments available, depending on your needs. I actually bought every single filament I could find on Amazon so I could experiment with them. So look for that on the upcoming videos on the channel. While considering filaments, remember that FDM printers can work with multiple filaments at once. Dual extruder printers use 2 different hot ends to allow for 2 different colors of the same filament, or even the filaments that are used in one model. Today there are printers with 4 different models as well as filament management systems that goes along with that printer. So literally up to 6 colors.
Sound like him.
yeah, I was just trying to start off with a simple one for now and work our way up to more advanced ones as we fucking learn. Yeah, you can have one with multiple heads and shit.
May still survive. Many printers today, like the longer LK4X here, come with what's called an automatic bed leveling system. Now the name is a bit of a misnomer because they actually level the bed for you. They provide data points that you can work with to detect the inconsistencies in the bed that would otherwise cause a print to fail. They check the exact height of the bed in multiple spots on the bed to understand how the first layer needs to be laid down to get a perfect first layer. It is crucial that the first layer not be too far away from the bed because that will cause it not to stick to the bed. Conversely, if you put the first layer too close to the bed, it will get smushed and not only look bad, but may have adhesion issues as well. The goal is to have a good amount of contact with the bed, but not squish it down so much that you get oozing on the sides. Automatic bed leveling technology has come a long way very quickly to help us out with this. Even if you don't have a bed leveling system, you can still use a manual process to get the perfect distance between the nozzle and the bed, so that your first layer is perfect. The most common way to do this is to use a standard piece of paper and then move the hot end to different areas of your print bed, one at a time. You then use the rotational knobs underneath to raise or lower the bed until the distance between the nozzle and the bed is just right. I've been using this technique since I first started printing in 2016, but with the technology available on newer printers, I really hardly ever have to do this anymore. I'm sure you've noticed by now, but I've kind of walked you through all of the steps and knowledge that you need to start 3D printing. But at the end of the video, like I mentioned, I'm also going to provide a brief walkthrough of all of the steps you need in rapid succession to go from unboxing your printer to slicing and successfully printing any model you want. Now, as I mentioned before, there are chapters on this video that you can take a look at. You can skip right to that part, or if you want to, you can come back to this video later and just get to the part that you need. One of the reasons I'm showing the longer LK4X as my demo printer is the perfect printer to show you all of these parts and principles on. In my estimation, it really has everything I'd expect
You can find someone else. I don't care. Or you can go back to the home screen. You just said you wanted to watch stuff on 3D printing.
I did, now I found out what I wanted to know.
I'd rather learn how to invest with reptiles. Even though I'm like playing my game and listen in between watching and listening to, I'd still rather learn how to invest with reptiles.
Everything about it, I love keeping reptiles, but I also enjoy making money. And so as a business, my loan is actually that's we're getting a this video, and next week I will be closing it. So look out for that video as well. Okay, so here we are. And actually, let's start with the animal island. So we're gonna go to we're gonna go to
Go to bed.
it's not on here. Now, first off, let's talk about the animal I bought, right? So I bought a baby female palmetto. No other horse, just palmetto. And